Have you seen the episode of The Chosen where Jesus walks on water? It's absolutely breathtaking. The scene perfectly portrays how chaotic and scary the waters of the sea would be to ancient people, and yet Jesus is in full control. He walks on the water, he calms the sea. The book of Psalms and Job talk about something very similar. In those verses, it is God who walks on the sea. It is God who controls the waters. But the waters aren't just waters. Oh, they are much, much more. Okay, so the last episode of season 3 of The Chosen begins with the episode with Psalm 77 being read aloud to King David, some 1,000 or so years before Jesus lived.
And he will hear me. In the day of my trouble, I seek the Lord. In the night, my hand is stretched out without wearying. My soul refuses to be comforted. When I remember God, I moan. When I meditate, my spirit faints.
This psalm is about someone who's struggling, in need of help. Of course, we as an audience are wondering why this is relevant to the show. More on that later. The show goes on until the very end, right after Jesus feeds the 5,000 with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. OMG, that's me! Yes, Jesus, that's you. Sorry, the little guy gets excited about these things. Anyways, Jesus feeds the 5,000 and then the disciples leave on a boat to go across the sea, but it's rainy, dark, and scary. The disciples are in a little, teeny tiny boat surrounded by dark waters.
Simon, we're not getting anywhere.
The winds are too strong. We should turn back. We can get there. Just keep rowing.
Simon, it's the 4th watch of the night and we've been stuck in the same place for hours. Help James!
Are you right?
James, are you okay?
Help him up.
Help me! We can't take much more water!
We'll founder.
Better off wet and cold on land than drowned and dead out here.
Notice how they aren't like us when we go on our fishing trips or cruises. There's no life jackets or engine on the boats to get them out of the sea. This is life or death for them. Any second, the water could tip the boat over. They could all drown within seconds. This is what I mean by The Chosen portrays the chaotic waters extremely accurately to how an ancient Israelite would see them. The story isn't over yet, though.
John, keep rowing! What are you doing? Did anybody just see that? Over there!
I don't see anything.
What are we looking for?
Go! Take the boat!
Go! Let's go!
It can't be.
You have to get out of here! Everyone move!
Go!
Faster!
Let's go! Nobody move!
Simon, what?
I said everybody stop! Stop!
Okay, stop!
Nobody move!
That's not a ghost.
Are you crazy? Don't be afraid! It's me! Jesus? This surprises you? Did you learn nothing from today?
Imagine being in this situation. You are about to be swallowed up by the sea, and you see a figure in the distance. Mark 6:45 says the figure looked like a ghost, but it wasn't a ghost. It was Jesus, walking on water. Yes, I mean, that sounds crazy, but there's so much more to this than just some miracle by Jesus. Walking on water is an explicit way of saying that Jesus is conquering chaos. Jesus is conquering everything that is unsafe in the world. This will be the equivalent of Jesus killing Satan to them. And the best part is that the only one we see walking on the sea, the chaotic waters, in the Old Testament is God. Let's look at some Old Testament verses to show you what I mean. Job 9 verses 8 and 13 say, "He alone spreads out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea." The Hebrew word for treads here, darak, does not mean treading in water as in swimming. It is the idea of trampling, stepping on, marching on the sea. Verse 13 says, God does not restrain his anger. Under him the helpers of Rahav lie crushed. The NET Bible translation notes on verse 13, the verb shahak means to be prostrate or to crouch. Here the enemies are prostrate under the feet of God. They are crushed. But who's this Rahab and why is God crushing it? Later in Job 26:12 to 13, it says, by his power he stills the sea. By his wisdom he cut Rahab, the great sea monster, to pieces. By his breath the skies became fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent. Wait, so Rahab is a sea monster? Why is God attacking this sea monster? Silly Leviathan, you know why. We'll get into it, okay? But wait, did you see how the verse said that? It says, by his power he steals the sea. By his breath the skies became fair. This is exactly what Jesus did right after he gets in the boat after walking on water. He calmed the sea.
Peace! Be still!
Please. Don't let me go.
I'm here. I'm always here.
But there's more. Psalm 89, 9 to 10 says, you rule over the surging sea. When its waves mount up, you still them. You crushed Rahab like one of the slain. With your strong arm, you scattered your enemies. It's very similar to our previous passages where we have God stilling the sea with force. But the sea stands for much more than just water. It's showing that God has the power over water, to which someone in the ancient world was completely hopeless to. To the ancient Israelite, only God has power over the chaotic water. But Zach, aren't those just poetic words? The Psalms and Job are poetic books after all. The Israelites didn't actually think the water was actually a sea monster, right? See, that's when things are a little interesting. Because when we talk about the ancient Israelite, we're talking about people that saw things differently than we do today. Where many of us feel we can, solve everything with science. To ancient people, they saw the world differently. Take a look at the Egyptian view of the world. Did they literally think the sky was a woman's body with stars on it? Or that we are literally standing on a man's body on the earth? No. We know from the descriptions they give us that these are their gods. These pictures are showing the underlying truth of the world to the Egyptian. Dr. Benjamin Kilker says,
I try always to explain it in this way also to my student. There was an important change between ancient times, not only biblical things, but also the whole ancient Near East, also I think even the Greek people and so the ancients and the modern times. And this is, I think everything has to do with the question of the relationship between matter and spirit and what is first. And the ancients were convinced that spirit is first and that spirit forms matter. and he also brings order into chaotic matter. He gives sense to matter, and this means that the whole world that we find with trees, with flowers, with stones, with whatever, everything has meaning, because the meaning is in the things formed by a spirit. The spirit, of course, in the Bible is called God, but you can also take the ideas of Platonic view or whatever. And this changed in the modern times, and we think now matter has the priority and spirit is a form of complex matter. And I think even believers or Christians have this point of view, because we rose up with this, that matter has no sense at all until we give sense to it. This is the constructivism, and therefore what we find between different kinds of matter, or what is the meaning of it, is just what we construct out of it. But the ancients would have said that if you take a rose or you take a tulip, these are two different things and two different meanings. But today we would say there is just a sense or a meaning that we gave to the flowers. And because the ancients believed that there is meaning in the creation, in everything that we see, that we can touch, that we can feel with our senses, there are a lot of things in the texts that are not explicitly formulated. So this is a world of symbols also, where things are related to each other.
Okay, this brings us to the main question. What did Jesus walking on the water and calming the sea mean to the disciples? If we were to take a time machine and go back to when it happened, we'd want to make sure we bring a modern day boat so we don't end up drowning almost like they do. But once we have our boat, what do we expect to see monsters in the waters? Was Jesus walking on the sea monster like in this ancient Mesopotamian artwork? No, but the disciples who are fearing for their lives will see that Jesus saved them from the chaotic waters of certain death by walking right over the waters, which signified the water's ultimate submission. And then, to make the claim even stronger, they would see Jesus having complete control of the waters and weather, all pointing to Jesus having the power of God. Interestingly enough, when describing how Jesus went to them in the boat, William Lane notes, "For Mark, the event is a theophany, a manifestation of the transcendent Lord who will pass by, as God did at Sinai before Moses, or on Horeb before Elijah." The text simply uses the language of theophany familiar from the Septuagint. While this scene was insane and really brought me into the world of the ancient Israelite, the show actually ends with the callback to Psalm 77, which we started the episode with. As we mentioned in the first part of the psalm, it describes someone who's struggling and in need of help. In the show, it goes,
I will appeal to this, to the years of the right hand of the Most High. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your wonders of old. I will ponder all your work and meditate on your mighty deeds. What God is great like our God? You are the God who works wonders. You have made known your might among the peoples. You with your arm redeemed your people, the children of Jacob and Joseph.
Okay, this is a callback to Egypt. As we will see later on, verse 20 refers to Moses and Aaron who took the people out of Egypt. Then it says,
When the waters saw you, O God, when the waters saw you, they were afraid. Indeed, the deep trembled.
Notice how the water is personified as seeing God and trembling. The depths shook with fear.
The clouds poured out water. The skies gave forth thunder. Your arrows flashed on every side. The crash of your thunder was in the whirlwind. Your lightnings lighted up the world.
It is interesting that the Exodus account doesn't mention anything about a storm. Either God is inspiring the psalmist to write something that he could not have known, or the writer is using the stereotypical imagery of his day to convey what the real truth behind what is happening, which is that God is subduing chaos.
The earth trembled and shook. Your way was through the sea, your path through the great waters. Yet your footprints were unseen.
If Asaph the psalmist, or whoever wrote this, is attempting to reference the crossing of the Red Sea when the Israelites went out of Egypt, the Exodus narrative doesn't say they walked on water. So this is a really weird reference here. While I think this passage is spot on to be mentioning for Jesus walking on water, it seems to be an odd choice for the chosen, since God in this passage is walking through the sea. It's not clear if it meant to imply that the waters were completely separated and God was walking on dry land, or walking through the waters as if the waters was right below his knees. That's not what the Gospels say when they say Jesus was walking on water. So I'm not sure if this is the perfect passage to be quoting for this event of Jesus walking on water. Just some interesting thoughts there. I would have liked to see them reference other passages we met before, where it talked about God literally treading on the sea, walking on the sea. It's also worth mentioning that walking through the waters in an Exodus context has other connotations in regards to separating the sea. You can check out my video on Leviathan if you want to learn more on that. Okay, so what is with all of this language of cosmic waters in Psalm 77? It's a psalm about the writer having a difficult time, but he knows God has the power to conquer the chaos and disorder in his life. He's saying that if God can walk on the sea, if he has submission over the sea, if he has control of all the chaos, if he has taken Israel out of Egypt, then he's got me now as well, even if it seems bad. Okay, the fun question is, did the writers of the show know all this? So I know they consult scholars, so I think they had an idea, but obviously it's impossible to tell. Anyways, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. This was such an eye-opening scene for me. The Chosen has been such a great show to watch. Comment what you thought of the scene, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.